So, Hare Krishna and welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam and Narcissism. We never hear about that in Srimad Bhagavatam classes. So, I've been studying the seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and this topic kept coming up about the narcissistic traits of Hiranyakasipu, and I thought let's make a little presentation. Now, Hiranyakashipu was very well known for his egoism. Prahlad was his son, and yet he was so narcissistic. He was so aggressive that he tortured his son. So here we see Hiranyakashipu torturing Prahlad, a little boy. Now, Hiranyakashipu was very well known for his egoism. Prahlad was his son, and yet he was so narcissistic. He was so aggressive that he tortured his son. So here we see Hiranyakashipu torturing Prahlad, a little boy. So one point that I'm trying to find common grounds between the Srimad Bhagavatam character Hiranyakashipu, who I, according to for this study sake, is the typical narcissist from the books of Srimad Bhagavatam. He was cursed, and you can say narcissism is a curse, just like Hiranyakashipu was cursed. Jaya and Vijaya were cursed, and Hiranyakashipu became a demon due to that curse. So that narcissism was quite strong in this character of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, looking at circumstance back then, Prahlad Maharaj, a pure devotee, dealing with his father, who is narcissistic, he was not that affected as much as I would be affected, or we in Kali Yuga would be affected by a narcissistic father, narcissistic husband, narcissistic friend, neighbor, boss, whatever, whoever it is. So for the sake of discussion, we'll keep the narcissistic personality type, Hiranyakashipu, with how we, not being Prahlad, would have to deal with this and what narcissism would mean. So this is the first introductory video. I plan to make a few more in this series. So there are 9 points that I want to make in this particular video. To start with, tip number 1, narcissists don't change. The weather doesn't change. We can keep checking our clocks, checking different situations, different time, different people. They don't change. Hiranyakashipu would not change. Whether how he was dealing with Prahlad or how he was dealing with the planetary deities, he was tying the planets to his throne, apparently. So he was abusive, he was aggressive. So the only way, if we are watching this video to see how do you deal with narcissistic people in my life, radical acceptance of this fact that they're not going to change. So what has to change has to be our understanding, our boundaries, our protection. Okay, so that's the first point. The second point is this. Here in this picture, we see Hiranyakashipu is doing very severe austerity. Half of his body is burnt by austerity, and all the ants have eaten his body up, and he's still surviving. And we may say, well, there are a lot of people, they have to go through so many difficulties in life. They may have gone through war, they may have gone through so much stress and trauma, like call it PTSD. People who may go through addictive alcohol, family of alcoholic parents. So we can name many people that are very resistant to life's challenges. And we may say, so there are a lot of people who are able to tolerate that kind of austerity. No, here we're not talking about that, because these things that I just mentioned, these are clinical terms. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or people who go through some other trauma or some other addictive patterns or substance abuse, all these things are way more treatable. They are symptoms that can be addressed. But narcissism is not curable. Why? Because the narcissistic personality trait, it's a narcissistic personality disorder. It's in the clinical word, it's known as NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. And you can't change personality. If somebody has stress or trauma, trauma can be removed, stress can be removed. But how are you going to remove a personality? So this is my second point, that sometimes narcissists can appear very, very hardworking. They can be very excellent at their job. They could be fathers that earn good money and bring food to the table in time, buy wife jewelry or show off socially that really good, etc. But deeply, it's not just some post-traumatic disorder. The narcissists could have trauma as well. They are deeply wounded, but it's not just limited to that. They are so sick, spiritually so sick, that it's very difficult to just look at them and say, oh, they are lazy, they don't do that, they're not. They can appear to be like, see Hiranyakasipu, so austere, so willing to please Brahmaji, going to any extent. But let's not be fooled. It is not the same as, like I said, the distinction here is narcissistic personality disorder cannot be cured. Very, 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 very rare, unless Narshikadev comes with his diamond-like nails and rips open Hiranyakashipu's abdomen. It's not that curable. At the same time, a narcissist being very functional and very productive does not mean that they just may have some trauma, right? So this is a second point. The third point, very important, that kind of ties together the things, is narcissists are very much trapped in their own mind. Like Hiranyakashipu was, he was trapped in his own mind. I am God and I must be worshipped, and he was really messed up. So the curse in Hiranyakashipu's case, the curse was to see Vishnu as an enemy, to become so demoniac. His thoughts became so twisted, and then he started twisting everybody else's thoughts, and he started to abuse his own son. Okay, so the very important point, I'll probably make a video or two about how twisted this mind can be and how they just don't see anything beyond that curse. They're so messed up. Everything is very messed up for them. So in other words, coming to the fourth point that I want to say, okay, third here, we may think, oh, these narcissists are giving me so much trouble, they may be happy that they're getting their way. But no, they're not happy. So let's take Hiranyakashipu here. He's torturing Prahlad so much. He tortured Prahlad so much. He was so abusive to his own son. So this again is another point, common ground. Narcissists are incapable of empathy. Narcissists are incapable of loving anybody. Period. There's no discussion around that. There's no way out of that. And this is what was happening with Hiranyakashipu also. He just couldn't love. And all that for the twisted idea of I am God. Everybody should accept. Om Namo Bhagavate Hiranyakashipuvaya Namaha. He just wanted Hiranyakashipu ki jai. That's it. He didn't want anything else. That was how twisted his thoughts were. So false, so shallow, so superficial, so much illusion. Now, the illusion went to such an extent and that we may think, this is a warning, if you do watch some videos about narcissism out there on YouTube or you study about these things, I warn to be very careful because the philosophical connection is missing. So they usually portray them as such evil, such horrible people, and it kind of like goes down. It goes down, but going upward of sattva guna understanding is that they are not happy. They constantly look for new supply, and Prahlad was not giving him supply. When I use some of these terms, these are terms that they use in clinical field, that narcissists look for supply. Supply is somebody who makes them feel good. They can fan their ego, make their inflated sense of ego keep growing. And Prahlad didn't do that, and therefore Hiranyakashipu put Prahlad through all kinds of trauma, torture. Now, narcissists need this supply, right? Why do they need that supply? To feel important. So the origin probably of the narcissistic trait is about Hiranyakashipu needing to be so important, more important than Vishnu, more important than God. He wanted to be God. So that level is not what we see in today's world. We may not see our parents or our whoever in our life we know are as narcissistic personality people, they may not have that much power. They may not have power to buy a town, or what to speak of buying all the planets, and so that planets don't cause any difficulty to them. So Hiranyakashipu was really powerful. So his entitlement, his thinking that I'm better than everybody, it had its own quantitative strength in that. Whereas in today's world, any small narcissist does not have enough power to even get their way in their house. But the quantity is not the point here. The quality is what we are looking at. So the quality of feeling important, the quality of entitlement, the quality of I am better than others, it always has the deeper insecurity. Like Hiranyakashipu did think, I am better than everybody, but deep inside he knew he's less than Vishnu. So there is like a very deep contrasting opposites there. They think they're best and better than everything, at the same time they have such deep sense of insecurity. So that's like the fourth point. They're not really happy. They're always looking for that supply. They're always looking for that validation in a more aggressive way than like Hiranyakashipu. I mean, more passive way than Hiranyakashipu. Okay, next is point number 5. Point number 5 is that we as non-Prahaladas, we go through the effects of narcissistic abuse. These are some of the consequences: anxiety and depression. We may feel post-traumatic stress, loss of self-esteem. Then we may have even physical symptoms like headaches, body aches, trouble in sleeping. Sometimes we even get so confused by the gaslighting or the manipulation of narcissists that did this really happen or did it not happen? We may even have short-term memory loss. And of course, I can't read the text there. What's the last one saying? Mood.
Mood swings.
Yes.
Sorry, deeper realization.
Yes. So mood swings, yeah, all these things can be the symptoms of going through narcissistic abuse, which Prahlad didn't. I mean, he was thrown off a mountain and he didn't get a scratch because Krishna was protecting him. In our cases, this is very important point. The 5th point that I wanted to make is that we shouldn't try to apply, I have to be Prahlad in the situation by tolerating narcissistic abuse. We must guard ourselves and protect ourselves by educating ourselves of the fact that this narcissist is not a new term. It's there even from the time of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the way Prahlad was able to isolate himself was through internally being so aligned to the Lord. And sometimes we may not yet be in that position, so it requires us education. So one of the reasons for making this series is that to educate ourselves of these symptoms, of these characteristics around us, so how we can face that. So looking at these symptoms, what happens is, why we go through this? Because see, talking from the perspective of a narcissist, these people are sick, spiritually sick. They are cursed. The injury is so deep in them. They're looking for perfection. They're looking for something there. So what was Hiranyakashipu looking? He was looking to become God. He was just looking to make everyone glorify him and become God. So his narcissistic injury, which was the curse from his previous life, he was living it, and he was projecting. All these narcissists do that, by the way. They project that insecurity, that whatever it is that they're feeling, emptiness, they project it on the other person. So they make like for Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj was a bad object. This is another clinical term about talking about narcissistic people. The internal dialogue is that the other person is bad. Like Prahlad is bad. So this is like Prahlad is a bad object. He even says in the 1st chapter of the 7th canto that the father is telling the son that you are like in the sandalwood forest, you are just like a weed to Prahlad, and you're contaminating everything. And he's saying you're like a poisonous snake. needs to be killed. You need to be killed. So he's projecting his evil-mindedness onto Prahlad and saying he is a bad object. And that's what all narcissists do. They make you feel bad. They make you feel guilty, you in the hypothetical sense. They make the people around them apologize for something that they did wrong. Okay, today we're not getting into the details of their sickness, but basically they're not in a good space. So because they're not in a good space, they are incapable of thinking of anybody's best interest. They just cannot. They just have no capacity to care for anybody. They're just not capable of empathy. And they only care about themselves. So Hiranyakasipu only cared about himself and his illusory cursed goals. Okay. Next. Sixth point. Sixth point is, what is this? What is this narcissist? What is this narcissism? It is basically a spiritual disease where individuals have this inflated sense of self and ego, and they are very, very shallow inside. They feel emptiness inside, and nothing of what they say is real. If you actually look at people who are narcissistic, you look into their eyes, you don't see life in there. You just see blankness. You see that darkness. So it's unfathomable what extent they can go to, cruelty they can go to, because they're so self-absorbed, they're so identified with their false sense of identity, just like Hiranyakasipu. It's like insane. I am God, and look at the state he ended up in. So there's not much, like I said, quantitatively it's different, but qualitatively it's that sense of I that becomes so big that they just lose all sense of connection to reality, and they think everybody else is a bad object because they deep inside know how cursed and wounded they are, and they think that they never accept it. It's a kind of deep subconscious denial. They somewhat, once in a while, they are aware that I myself am a bad object. There's something wrong with me, but they'll never admit that. They'll always project it on the other people, and they make the other person the bad object. I'll talk more about these terms later. So basically, narcissistic personality disorder, individuals who have this disease, they suffer a lot. They're incapable of being truly happy. They are incapable of love, and they use certain methods. Like I will talk about these in another video, but just to give you an introduction, there are three major elements that I want to bring up today. One is gaslighting. Gaslighting is, you can Google it more, but it's a very powerful term. To make a person think something which is not true. So narcissists are very capable of manipulation. They're very charismatic at times. Not all narcissists are charismatic, but some can be. And they can use that manipulation strategy to gaslight you. In other words, there is a little problem and they can just put fire in there and make you feel terrible and put all the blame on you. So they're very, very good at this blame game. So gaslighting is one of the big things that narcissists do. And they eventually, most people drive people insane through this. For instance, let's say I've switched off the light in the kitchen, and the narcissistic person would go and turn the light on after I have turned it off. They'll come and say, you again forgot to switch on the light. Something is going wrong with you. You're going crazy. You're forgetting everything. So they gaslight a situation to their favor of they have some agenda to make you lose it. And so the person becomes angry, irritable, like, no, I did switch off. And then the whole thing explodes. So they put you into that gaslight situation. This is just a very vague explanation of that. Second is the flying monkeys. These are all concepts that come up in this clinical when we are analyzing narcissists. Flying monkeys are people that narcissists use. Like in case of Hiranyakasipu, the flying monkeys were Shanda and Amarka, the teachers of Prahlad Maharaj, and the other ministers of Hiranyakasipu in the kingdom. They all know, you know God, come on. You're Hiranyakasipu, you're the demon, you're not going to be God. And yet these people, the flying monkeys, would go and torture Prahlad, and they jump around, making Prahlad look like he's wrong. Prahlad, why are you doing this? Don't do this. And so the flying monkeys are people in our life that make us believe that something is wrong with us. They don't make us see the truth of the fact of how sick the narcissist is. So this is one other concept. Another concept is triangulation. Triangulation is basically similar, involving a third party in the relationship. Let's say father and child, and then the father involves the mother in the triangulation to make you look bad. For example, if you have a narcissistic father, or the father may include your sibling. Oh, you see, your sibling is so good at A, B, and C, and you really suck at it. Why are you so bad with this? So they can use a third person, sometimes real people, sometimes a situation, or sometimes imaginary. They can create somebody. Oh, I know somebody, I have a friend and their child is so good, and why are you so bad? So they create a third person to mess up the situation. So Prahlad Maharaj went through that as well with Hiranyakasipu. All right, so this is one of the last points, point number 8 for today. The narcissism is not something where the narcissist wins and we lose in a spiritual sense. Materially, they may win an argument, they may win a property, they may win a court case in those external results sense. Internally, spiritually speaking, it's a huge spiritual disease, and it's a sickness which is almost incurable, like I said, unless the devotional service that they do, and it's up to Krishna how they get cured of that narcissism. And they're trapped. These individuals are really trapped. They don't want peace. Another example I'm thinking is Duryodhana. He could have just been peaceful with the Pandavas, who were so nice to him. But no, he had to create so many narcissistic dramas with the Pandavas and send them on exile and everything. And then what happened? As a result of sending Pandavas to imprisonment, Duryodhana couldn't sleep. He was constantly sending spies to see what Pandavas are doing, So narcissism, it can look like these people are torturing me and they're happy. No, they are not happy. They are miserable. In fact, they choose miserable life, whether Duryodhana, who could not accept the kingdom peacefully and divide it, or Hiranyakashipu, who could not accept such a beautiful child and just accept, okay, one person is not accepting that I'm God, everybody else adores me. Prahlad is speaking some Shastra, I don't like it, just make peace with it. No, he had to go to such an extent that he had to get killed by Nrsimhadev. Okay, so they don't want peace, okay? It's 8. And they say the only way to win with the narcissist is don't play. Don't play the game. All right, the last point is, last but not the least, this is a narcissist walking over everybody. They lack empathy. They don't treat people. They treat people only nicely for superficial reasons, temporarily, unless they get their way. Then what we're seeing here happening is this egg is walking on other eggs. The narcissist is walking on people, and people are feeling very hurt. But it doesn't exactly happen like this. When we see narcissists around us, we may see them as, they may be spiritual leaders, they may be our parents, they may be our relatives, they may be our partners, they may be our boss, it could be anybody in our life. And initially they made what they call, in the terms of narcissistic clinical terms, they do love bombing. It means if they want to gain your favor, they'll be so nice, bring you presents, appreciate you, make you feel so mesmerized by them. So that's the stage of love bombing, and that usually happens with partners, like lovers. They love bomb the person and make them fall in love. And you, the hypothetical, you may fall in love with a narcissist because either because you have a parent who is narcissist and you're attracted to that energy in a karmic way, or because of naivety, you may fall in love with the narcissist. And then very quickly that love bomb phase ends. And then the de-evaluation phase begins. The de-evaluation is where the narcissist starts to criticize everything you do, every choice, everything from your physical appearance to your tasks, to your service, to your association with who you are. They start to cut you out from everybody, and they just, the devaluation phase begins. Like with Prahlad Maharaj, it was extreme. Devaluation to a point of poisoning him and getting him trampled by an elephant and so on and so forth. Then another stage comes. Hiranyakasipu never got a chance, I guess, with that one. Maybe he did in a subtle way. Hovering. It's a stage of hovering. Hovering is like person realizes that we're not going to get my way. This person has realized I'm a narcissist. I can't control this individual anymore. And then they hover. Hover is like come back and try to like check you. How healed are you? Are you healing or not? And maybe in case of Hiranyakashipu, we can say him using Prahlad to get to Vishnu, to make Nrsimhadev appear. Is he here in this pillar? When he asks, and then Prahlad Maharaj responds, Vaso yati sarvatra tasmat stambena drishyate. Prahlad Maharaj says, of course, my Hari is everywhere. He's also in this pillar. So I guess that's kind of the hovering stage for Hiranyakashipu. He was using Prahlad to make his dire enemy who Prahlad was worshipping appear so he could destroy him. His illusion to think that he can destroy Vishnu. So the hovering is when we experience it in our lives is maybe a parent that's trying to get you for something, maybe to agree to something, or maybe a partner that wants you to not leave them because they want you to take abuse that they're giving. They know that you're tolerant, so they can keep abusing you so that you can keep getting their supply, or for various reasons, which we will hopefully discuss in other sessions. So thank you very much for your attention. This has been my short presentation on the introduction of Srimad Bhagavatam and Narcissism, and specifically today's presentation was about Hiranyakashipu. And I don't know, I hope you found something useful. And if you have any comments, questions, I'm very eager to hear. Maybe I can stop the share, the screen. And yes, any thoughts, any comments, any observations?
Krishna Mataji, thank you for the presentation. It makes a lot of sense when you have seen somebody and you're trying to figure out why that person is doing, and you could feel there's so many wrong traits in his personality, and now we have all tied them up into such a comprehensive clinical whatever narrative or disorder type. And so what do you do when you have this conflict, especially if that person is in spiritual life with you, and then you have two sides to your own experience? You're angered by their treatment of yourself and others, and at the same time, they have taken initiation, they are in this moment, they are dear to Krishna. Everybody's dear to Krishna, but again, how Krishna is. He'll say, if he has taken exclusive surrender of me, consider him a sadhu. So internally, we can't handle the mistreatment, but internally we also know somewhere, after we have vented out, or we have cried, or we have been depressed, and then we start blaming ourselves. He's Krishna is saying, what do you do with these two conflicting emotions?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I will start off with the solution is that we are supposed to stop feeling guilty. We are supposed to forgive ourselves first. Nobody in the beginning stages, we're not asking you to forgive the narcissist. First thing is forgive yourself, because it's in order for us to deal with the circumstance, we need to be healthy. And usually narcissism is like a virus. So when we are staying close to a narcissist, we also get that sickness. May not be exactly, we don't become like them, but it's like, thinking of a zombie movie. Zombie comes and bites, and then the person also becomes a zombie. So narcissism is like that kind of a disease that self-doubt happens, and like you said, we start blaming ourselves, we start feeling so guilty. So That's why education, that's why we need to understand that there are people, I mean, even Hiranyakashipu is Jaya Vijaya. He was a devotee too, right? He's cursed. So similar way, when we look at a devotee, we can see that, okay, they are also cursed. Cursed. And there's no fun in it. They may be abusing people. It's very sad what they're doing. It's very bad and sad. At the same time, they are also suffering the curse. They're very, they will appear to be choosing it, but it's a sickness. That's what I learned. See, I studied clinical terms. I studied psychology. I have professors who taught me these topics. But what I found is that what they lack is the Krishna conscious understanding. And Hiranyakashipu is a key character for me to understand the idea of curse, because narcissists are so sick and so wounded, and they get worse, they say, as they age. They even can get worse because their charm fades, their physical appearance fades, so they start becoming more irritable. So the point is this, going over the points that I mentioned today, the 9 points. First thing is radical acceptance of the fact that they're not going to change. But within that radical acceptance, we also need to accept that there's nothing wrong with you or us. Okay, that within the radical acceptance comes it takes a while, Amrita Sundari Mataji. It's not very easy to, first of all, detect a narcissist is not a joke. Because we know acharyas are saying it, it's in Bhagavatam, we saw how he treated Prahlad. But in our cases, like I said, the quality and the quantity of power is very minuscule in comparison to Hiranyakashipu. So it may be very foggy for us. There's something wrong here. There's something not right, but it takes a while. That's why this education is important, to understand, okay, what are the characteristics, and how does it affect us, and what is it that they are actually going through. So when we can have that knowledge, then we'll be able to apply the right principle at the right time. But start off with radical acceptance of the fact that they're not going to change. There's nothing wrong with you. At the same time, you need to protect yourself and get as much as possible knowledge about these things so you can protect yourself. And you don't have to start off praying for them, etc., because that requires a lot of compassion, forgiveness. But we can start off praying for ourselves. And most cases, see, if it's a father, husband, or child, or somebody that we cannot easily go away, we need to learn. We need to learn how to detach from within and take the Prahlad Maharaj route. But somebody like a boss or a neighbor or a friend or some temple president or something, we can move away.
Yes.
So it depends. The question can go in different directions based on the specific story.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Any other questions? We have 5 minutes more. Yeah, I see a question in the chat box. Is there a direction how we should deal with them? Yeah, that's a question that comes after recognizing. See, I brought up nine points. You can watch the video again. These 9 points are basic to understand. And I'm trying to find the common points between Hiranyakashipu and these narcissistic people around us. It doesn't cover all the points, but major. And how we deal with them depends on the relationship, depends on our healing, where we are in healing, in our own recovery, and it depends on what we have. Like, for example, custody of children. That's a topic that can be very difficult to share custody with a narcissistic ex, right? It's something I studied extensively about those things, because legal things are involved, property matters are involved, children, how long you keep the child, all this kind of things. It's a different training. Whereas you have a narcissistic neighbor, how do you avoid this person and don't get into deep talks? Actually, this is one secret tip that saved me so many times. Do not have deep conversation with a narcissist. Keep it to how's the weather, when is Janmashtami, what color Deity will be wearing outfit. Stick to that. That's one of the how to deal with a narcissist. And sometimes even if they are partners or mother-in-laws or mother or father, same rule. That saved me immensely. And the other one is like, if you want to win, don't play. If you want to win against a narcissist, don't play. It's similar with the don't get into deeper don't expect them to understand you. Don't expect them to be. They're shallow people. They're empty. They have nothing of real. They cannot. They're looking for something very shallow. So once they get some fulfillment, they are like looking for more. So there's no end to it. Yeah. Okay, we have a couple of more minutes. If anybody else wants to share any other thoughts or experiences, did you find any of these points relevant? Did you find anything relatable?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the presentation. So my question is, it may seem rude that if I say that, is it karma of the person that he or she is facing narcissist abuse, and how to escape that karma? Making peace, harmony, and how to escape that karma so that in further life one doesn't have to face the same things again and again. How to come out of the loop?
Very, very good question. So this question has 3 levels of answer. On a philosophical, basic philosophy level, we know that karma is major player in difficult relationships, etc. Having said that, there are certain relationships that it's not 100% karma. Like I said earlier, a neighbor or a friend or a temple president or somebody that you're working with, or which is changeable, avoidable, or even parents that you don't live with them anymore, or somebody that you don't live with them anymore. They may be distant relatives, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, somebody, right? In those cases, it may not be so much karma. It is maybe 5%, 10% karma. I mean, I'm just kind of speculating the percentage here. Don't take me literally. But the idea is that there's room for free will in those situations. However, if you are living with a parent that is narcissistic and has your control of finances, has control over properties or whatever, then the karmic factors are naturally more, the implications are more, especially like I said, properties and legal things, all these things can be much more entangling. Or even like I said, if you are with some partner, with you have children with a narcissistic partner, then also, yeah, it's much more entwined karma. That's the second level. So it's impossible to differentiate how much karma, etc. The third thing I want to mention is that regardless of whether it's 90% karma or 10% karma, and how much space for free will we have, we can always learn from Prahlad Maharaj and take that inspiration from Prahlad Maharaj, that his strength came from within. His strength came from his faith and surrender to the Lord. So even our way out is through that faith and surrender to the Lord. Not faith and not surrender to the narcissist, but surrender to Krishna. And when I say don't surrender to the narcissist, it doesn't mean that we stand up against them and we throw a fight. Like I said, we can't win with them. We will only lose if we try to fight with them. But to stand up for ourselves like Prahlad did, to not give up that faith. So in Prahlad's case, it was basically that faith. He said, I'm not going to say you're God, because you're not. Krishna is, Vishnu is God. But in our normal relationships, no narcissist is exactly asking us to say, don't believe in, don't chant Krishna's names, chant my name. No, nobody is saying that quantitatively, that kind of control. At the same time, the principle of getting out of it is through that surrender and faith. So with that, we will end here. I hope this has been a good introduction to this. I encourage you all to take a look at some difficult relationships and come up with more questions next time. I do plan to address more with examples of Shastra and how we can navigate this practically in our relationships. And I want to use my knowledge of studying all these things for a good use to help devotees and ladies to stand strong with difficult people. Thank you very much for your attention, and Hare Krishna. And thank you for joining at such a short notice. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.